What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. I got the first collab ever on EOS. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
What's going on out there? My name is Joey. I'm from the San Fernando Valley down in Southern California, LA County. And just came on here to kick it with 1090 Jake. End of sentence and, get some convo going on.
Now, I know that this is gonna have a lot of people very, very interested, being that, you're from Cali. I did my time down in Florida. Politics, it's like different worlds, you know what I mean? And I feel that I took a lot of people by surprise when I brought TK on my show, being that TK is unforgiven and stands on his beliefs. And, while our beliefs aren't the same, it was a mutual respect the second I met him. And the second I started hearing your stories, even though I didn't know your personal beliefs or if your politics carried out into the streets, I respected your story immediately. And I related a lot to it. And I love hearing about Cali prisons. I'm big into history. I'm a history nerd, like hearing about places like Folsom and things like that. And then how I know that Johnny Cash actually played inside of Folsom back in the day. Things like that are cool to me. I've seen the old, riot videos and crazy things happening. But how did you, when you first saw my videos and how I was explaining Florida, how did that sound to you, being that you're used to the California politics?
First off, man, shout out to TK, man. It was good seeing him on your videos, man, and I'm glad he's doing good, and I enjoyed hearing his story. Watching your videos, brother, and hearing about Florida, it's a trip, man, because it's so different. But at the same time, it's almost like it's anarchy out there, brother. You know what I mean? And I kind of my heart goes out to you guys that had to endure that, because it was hectic. I can tell it was hectic, and you guys had to go through some serious violence and trials and tribulations, brother. And the difference between Florida and Cali, I think, is just the politics, in a sense, kind of keeps everybody from having to go through all that stuff. And but yeah, definitely, it was a trip listening to it, because it's the contrast is night and day, man.
Yeah, I feel that I've reached out to a couple of other people from California, and I pretty much say the same thing. The politics out there, even though I'm not for segregation, I understand it. And a lot of the politics out there are respectable. There's certain people, I believe, that shouldn't be allowed to walk amongst others. There's certain things that you can do that require a certain punishment. And if everybody has that understanding and you still cross that line, I fully believe in enforcing politics. And that's something that, Florida, it's literally every man for himself, And one thing that a lot of people have said to me is, oh, if you hit a Cali yard and you're a white blood, the whites are going to kill you first quarter. The whites are going to get you. A lot of people don't take into consideration, I'm not the type that's going to sit and wait for something to happen. And I feel that a lot of people, in Florida, that's the biggest thing, is people want to see you take the initiative. You pop it off. When you come in the dorm, someone will try you. Everyone will try you. They want to see you take flight. So I'd like to hear your personal viewpoint on that. White Bloods, white Crips, white anything that isn't in a white organization hitting a level 4, a level 3, and how it actually plays out.
So yeah, I mean, you have white Bloods, you have white Crips in California, and they do walk the main line, but they are usually going to be, as far as the whites go, the first target. And sometimes it'll happen right away, and sometimes it'll take a while. Like I was in one location. Kira, get out of the way. I was in one location where there was a white Crip on the yard, and he was actually there for 3 years. Now, remind you, this was when I first went to prison. I was on a level 3 for about 6-7 months. So he was there for about 3 years on that yard, and 2 white dudes, active gang members, ran up a dope debt and actually ended up stabbing the dude after the dude had been there for 3 years. So it was kind of a PC move in a way in my eyes, and I didn't respect it at all. But he had been on that yard for 3 years, just chilling. Like I said, that was a level 3 yard. Now on level 4s, they usually move on them pretty quick, man. And you know, it most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to kick off a riot. You know, now there's certain people that I've seen and stuff, you know, talking about, you know, they walked the line and this and that, and they were a white Crip and they're from this neighborhood, and just from the way they act and the way they conduct themselves, I can already tell that they wouldn't even be accepted by, you know, their people. You know what I mean? And they would be shunned, and then they would really be in trouble because they wouldn't have the backing of nobody. So, I mean, that's the main thing is the ones that I have seen normally are straight, you know, they're from their hood. Like, you know, they got their neighborhood big block letters blasted on them, and, you know, and you could tell they're about it. And, but unfortunately, yeah, I mean, they get moved on pretty quick. So that's your take on it, is getting off right away. That's probably your best bet. I mean, because, you know, why sit around and wait for something that you know is going to come?
Yeah, you know it's going to happen. And I think, you know, being that I've brought on generally people that I've been cool with, a lot of people don't understand in Florida, in the youth offender prisons, Blood and NPR, which is a gang from Tampa, we were basically public enemy number 1. We were going at it with everybody, you know what I mean? Literally everybody on the compound. So I was already used to being the number 1 target. And I feel that that's what built a lot of respect. You know, other people respecting me, was the fact that I went in knowing that I'm most hated, had the option to try to go another route, and still went that route. So, I mean, it's nice to know, especially from you, from someone that's experienced it, not all these little keyboard warriors, that there are people that stay true to what they believe in. And, you know, a lot of people have also said, I've just heard, you know, words race traitor and things like that. I stayed true. I listened to what you said in another video, how you were into the graffiti stuff, and then you were hanging out with a lot of guys on the street, and those same guys were the ones that you hung out with in prison. And to me, that's loyalty, that's respect, and that's what you're supposed to do. And all I did was, when I went in, I stayed true to the same people I was around on the streets. You know what I mean? How was it for you adapting to the environment as a whole, to the violence, the politics? Like, when you go in there, because it is pretty much organized over there, is there someone that does lay it, like they lay it out for you? They tell you the do's and the don'ts?
Yeah, so like you'll go to reception center. So from the county, you'll go to reception center. Like for Southern California guys, we go to Delano, which is in Central California. And we'll go to the reception center, and there they classify you. They'll look at your case. They'll look at, you know, how violent it was, you know, any past history, you know, charges that you've had, and they're going to classify you as a level. So like when I went, I got classified as level 3 off the rip. I think I had like 42 points or something like that, 38 points, something like that. It was like barely right to level 4 points. So then once you get shipped from reception, you go to whatever prison they send you to. And when you get there, usually every yard has a building that has a tier that's for intake. So you'll go in there for like a week before you get seen by committee on the yard, and they clear you. And when you roll up, your people will get at you. They'll come up and they'll be like, hey, where you from? You know, asking you all the questions that, you know, normally get asked. They'll check your paperwork, you know, make sure everything's cool. And then, you know, everything's all right. Everything pans out. They'll see what you need. If you need, you know, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, whatever, and they'll bring you over a care package and tobacco when they had it, coffee, all that stuff. And they'll kind of give you the rundown of what's going on in the yard. If there's tension, if there's, you know what I mean, what's going on. Because every building will have, each race will have a MAC rep for its, you know, for its people. And that MAC rep usually gets to roam the tier like pretty much all day. So, he does most of the running and, passing drugs and, whatnot, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So he's heavily involved in all the politics. And that's usually who will come and get at you first, right off rip. So, yeah, you kind of know. But, I went in originally with 9 years. I turned that into 13. And I told myself off rip that I had a life sentence. I looked at it like I had life. I left the streets on the streets. I mean, of course, I still corresponded with my grandmother and my little brother and a few others, but I left that out there. I blocked it out. And I pretty much told myself I had a life sentence, and I'm going to do what I got to do to make a name for myself, one, and do what I got to do to make sure that I'm cool. And that's what I did, bro, and as soon as I hit the yard, I already knew a couple people from the streets that were actually already on the yard. So, of course, I hit them up right off rip. And, one thing led to another. And I only lasted on that yard for about 6 months. And then I went straight to level 4. But, I mean, the violence is on a whole other scale. I mean, what you guys deal with in Florida is insane. But the violence in Cali, it's more structured. So when it goes down, bro, it's intense, bro. Like, cause like it's going down, and you go to the yard, and you're strapped up. Everybody else is strapped up. Whoever you're about to get into it with, strapped up. It's quiet as a church house. It's quiet. And, you can hear a pin drop, and then it just erupts, bro. You know what I mean? And it's war. I mean, everybody's stabbing everybody, stomping everybody. You got the towers shooting live rounds with the Mini 14 into the dirt, warning shots. They're, shooting tear gas canisters out at you, block gun, the whole 9 yards. So it's, and then you have your one-on-one instance or your 2-on-1 instance with somebody's getting taken off the yard. You know what I mean? That needs to be dealt with. There, somebody's dealing with one of their own people. They'll move on them and stab them up and stuff. But everything's more like it's orchestrated. You know what I mean? So it's intense though, man. It's crazy, and you got to adapt to it quick because there's not like a learning curve. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't get to kick back and just be like, you got to figure things out real quick.
Now, when you get to a prison, and obviously these prisons that you were at were popping off, do you have to prove yourself when you associate with a group, or are you pretty much accepted, and when it's time to go, if you fail at that point, you're taken care of?
So the way you're tested in California, I mean, sometimes you might, get a cellie that's a homeboy or something, and he'll hard check you. You know what I mean? Just because, you know what I mean? But it's not like you guys where you got the TOH, you know what I mean, right off the gate. It's not like that. But what will happen is, if you're the new guy on the yard, and you ain't been to prison, you ain't got a reputation, when it comes time to deal with something, they're going to expect you to kind of raise your hand. If you don't raise your hand, then they're kind of going to look at you like, what's up with dude? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then they're going to make you do it pretty much. You know what I mean? They're going to say, hey, you need to go, whack this dude. And so, of course, I knew that right off the gate. So I raised my hand for everything, until I established a name for myself. And then once you establish a name for yourself, you don't have to do all that anymore, But, so, yeah, I guess, yeah, you are kind of accepted right off the gate. But you do have to prove yourself in a pretty short period of time.
See, that's just that alone is conflicting with Florida because, in Florida, a TOH isn't necessarily gang specific. If you come in and you're neutral, if you're Hispanic, generally the Hispanics, we have intake dorms as well. So when you hit a prison, you're going to most likely go to that intake dorm first at the youth offenders. And when people see you, because we have to march around the compound, people will literally point you out of the line and be like, hey, you're under me. Hey, you're going to be under us. So you already know when you get into those dorms, like, all right, I gotta make it happen. And if you're Spanish, the Spanish are going to come at you. If you're white, anyone's coming at you. And if you're black, it's generally the blacks coming at you. But it isn't gang specific. So if you're a gang member and you get moved into a dorm with all the rival gang members, they may still TOH you because they're trying to extort you, but it usually ends with, you know, you can't heal yourself. You have to go to medical. They're gonna, because they don't want you to stay in the dorm if they're not getting money off you. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But one thing that I always stood on myself was never ask me to do something for you. If anything, ask me to come with you. I'll come with you. We'll both do it. You get this side, I'll get this side. But I'm not doing anything for anyone because there was such a stigma that white boys were crash dummies, white boys were getting used. You know what I mean? So I would never let anyone tell me to do anything. Either I would go and do it voluntarily without anyone even talking about it, or you ask me to go and I'll ride with you. But that's crazy. You know what I mean? Just having someone tell you like, hey, you need to go and handle that. And that's law. That's expected.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know, but at the same time, you know, the people that are normally coming at you and telling you this stuff, they've been down for, you know, many years. They've ran yards, you know, and they're very well respected, and you know without doubt that they would go handle that in a second themselves. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's just anybody telling you. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I actually respect that. And there has been times where I was asked, hey, you know, so-and-so needs to be dealt with. And I'm like, all right, well, homeboy Rob, you know, come and handle it with me. And, you know, I actually got into an argument one time when I was in administrative segregation. At that time, now they have the dog runs. They're like cages, and it has a toilet and a sink. And it's basically like a big dog kennel pretty much for a human. And that's where you know, if you got a cellie, you and your cellie, there's just a bunch of dog kennels, and you go out to that yard in administrative segregation. That's how they have the yard. Before, they used to have the concrete yards where you and all the other white dudes would go out. They used to not be segregated. At one time, you used to go out there with the Hispanics, the Southern Hispanics, the whites would, you know, the blacks would go out with the Northerners. But then they started segregating because there was just so much stuff popping off all the time. So like, you know, we went out to the yard, the concrete yard, and dude kind of, you know, told me, hey, this dude needs to be handled. And I was like, cool, well, you know, homeboy Rob, you know, I want him to do it with me. And he's like, nah. And I'm like, no, yeah, I want homeboy to do it with me. You know, he's going to roll with me. And finally, you know, it ended up almost coming to blows between me and dude that had the building. And he ended up breaking it down and was like, all right, yeah, Rob, roll with me. So, you know, it's fun you brought up the fire extinguisher of the K-49, the pepper spray, man. And you were talking about how it blows your shirt.
Yeah.
So when me and homeboy Rob jumped on dude, you know, they always shoot first, man. They always shoot the block gun first, bro. You know, they usually when they spray, everything's gonna kind of calm down, but they'll shoot the block gun first, and they're supposed to skip fire it off the ground so many feet away from you, but they never do. So they shot me right here in the eyebrow, split my eyebrow open, and I was leaking, you know, we're smashing on dude. And then they hit me with that fire extinguisher, man. They hit me in the face, and it had so much pressure, bro, it blew my lips back. It was crazy, dude. Those things got pressure. It's a straight freaking jet stream, bro, coming out of that thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, but so yeah, I mean, there has been some instances where, you know, I was like, you know, I held my ground and was like, nah, you know, somebody else is gonna roll with me on this. Not because I couldn't handle it myself, just because the way the politics were going, and I didn't respect it. And I was like, you know what, fuck that. Somebody else is gonna roll with me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna force that hand and make it to where somebody else is gonna have to put in some work too.
Definitely.
And I always would pick one of my hometown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, put on for the home team.
Yeah, man, you're gonna roll with me, man. If not, then you look like a sucker.
That's a crazy element though, the fact that, you know, they're so quick to shoot those guns. Like the first youth offender prison, the first real prison I hit, aside from a reception, was Sumter CI. And where Sumter CI is in Florida, it's only like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes away from where they had Whitey Bulger in the federal prison. And, you know, when we get there, the intake dorm when we have to line up outside of the intake dorm, directly in front of us is the gun tower. And they had AR-15s. And what they would do is they would cock it back right before they turned on the light. And they would have like the floodlights, and the floodlight would watch us the whole time we march, because we're out at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And that's usually that's the best time to cut someone in line, is when it's dark and they can't see. But I never heard of them actually shooting it off. They only had the rule that if you were within 6 feet of the fence, they could kill you. But other than that, when everyone used to crash on the rec yard, they didn't do nothing. If anything, they would gas. We had COs running away. COs were getting hit up, but they never actually shot. You know what I mean? And to get hit in the face, that's crazy. You're blessed. That's wild, bro. I couldn't even imagine, like, because, you know, I've experienced when the rec yard goes down, but to have gunshots in the background too, and then, you know, you might get killed by one of them while you're watching everyone else. Because I wouldn't want to lay down. If I know people are still going at it, I'm not laying down until everyone else is laid down, because I've seen kids lay down and get hit up right after they lay down. You know what I mean? But when them guns are going off, though, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, you know, like in riots and stuff, dudes that get down. I've seen dudes hop right on their back, bro, and just start, you know, sticking them. You know what I mean? And it's hectic, bro, especially when it's a riot situation, because, you know, like you said, you're not just watching out for, you know, your enemy that's coming at you with a piece. You know, you're watching out for that gunner too, because if you're sticking somebody, all reality, he can smoke you. He can waste you right there. You know, if he visually sees you sticking him, you know, he can smoke you. So I've seen 2 guys get their life taken right in front of my eyes from the Mini 14. One was in the chow hall, and the guy actually got shot on accident. He was aiming for somebody else, and the dude was sitting about 10 feet from the wall. And when he shot him in the head, bro, I mean, it was just brain matter all over the wall and everything, bro. It was pretty sad. It was actually Southern Hispanic who got killed, and it started a lot of drama with the cops, man. They ended up having to take a gang of guys off the yard and send them to other prisons and everything, because, you know, they were scared. And then the other one was in a riot. It was a black guy that got shot in the head and killed. So, you know, that twice I've seen somebody taken out from the Mini 14, man. And, yeah, it's a Ruger Mini 14 is what they use. And, man, it ain't no joke, man. And they don't aim for your leg, bro. They aim for your head. They aim for the kill shot, bro. They could easily hit you in the leg. And, you know, you may live, but they always go for the head. That's so, crazy. Yeah, they play with the guns, man. Back in the day, they used to have the 12 gauge, and they used to have the 38 revolver, you know, and then they switched to the Mini 14 and the block guns. But yeah, pretty intense, bro, when you're in a melee and you got to watch out for a gun or two.
See, they don't even so I'm guessing that when y'all go in the chow, what is there, like another tier, and they're on that top tier with the guns inside of the chow hall?
Yeah, so kind of. So when you go to the chow hall, so there's 5 buildings usually, most prisons, most of these newer prisons anyways, each yard has 5 buildings. So it'll be like 1 through 5 or you know, 8 through whatever. But so when they release chow, there's 2 sides of the chow hall, and there's a gun tower in the back of the chow hall that spans the length of both chow halls. So the gunner has access to both sides. So one building will go into one side, so they'll like 1 block will walk, go into one side, and then 2 building will walk and go into the other side. So when something pops off, you know, the gunner has, you know, action, and usually they'll have two shooters up in that tower so they can have eyes on both sides of the chow hall. You know what I mean? And then every building has a gun tower in it, has a gunner in it. And then they also have the main gun tower on the yard. And now the gun towers in the building have access not just to the inside of the building, but they have windows in the back, so they have access to the yard. So when a riot kicks off, you got 5 gunners around that can shoot you, plus the main gun tower. So it's crazy, bro. It's crazy, bro.
I mean, when I hit Appalachia, which was my first and only adult compound besides the receptions. I mean, for one, I've never heard of someone getting shot by a CO in Florida State Prison. I never experienced it. I never heard of it happening. When we go into chow, at Appalachia, we line up outside and everything like that. There'll be a guard somewhere outside, but they're never paying attention. They're just talking to each other. And when we first walk in, you walk into an open door and you're in like a small room. And then in the corner of there is another door, and that's how you enter the chow. And in this small room, all the inmates, we just pile up. There's no CO in here with us. There's no camera. So it's, you know what I mean? That's the spot where it goes down. If you're trying to catch somebody in another dorm, you sit in that little room and let everyone keep going. And, once that first dorm goes and the next dorm comes, right when he walks in, you get him and he's out of there. And it's just like, I can't understand, like, who created Florida State Prison and decided to run it how they run it, because it's so easy. There are so many people that get away with murders in Florida State Prison because of how stupid the COs are. The COs don't care about doing their job. There's a lot of COs that will tell you, look, if you want to handle your business, do it right after I get off. Do it when the new shift comes. He's going to be in the bathroom for like 15 minutes. Like, they'll just tell you because they don't want to have to write paperwork. So then right when they leave, boom, we tear it down and nobody gets in trouble. You know what I mean? Unless someone tells. But it's crazy to hear how strict everything is, and you still got to enforce those politics regardless. You still got to push through it because we don't have that element. We don't have the threat from the COs. You'll have COs beat you to death, you know what I mean? And a lot of hands-on COs, but never to the point that we're getting shot or anything like that.
See, and I think that's one of the reasons why the politics are so strict, is because the ramifications of what happens behind people's actions, it's insanity, bro. I mean, it's unnatural, and it's basically war, bro. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, you got to worry about the cops too. So, I mean, it's like, so if somebody does something stupid and, kicks off a riot, more than likely somebody's going to lose their life, or multiple people are going to lose their life in that riot. So I think that's one of the reasons why the politics are so enforced the way they are, is to keep things in line. So there ain't a bunch of drama and stuff all the time. Plus, people get their hustle on in California, bro. I mean, big time. You know what I mean? And they want to get that money. So, the more drama that's going on, the less money is going to be made. So, you know what I mean? They there's that factor too. You know what I mean? But
there's a lot of responsibility on y'all's shoulders, just knowing that. Because, I mean, at the youth offenders, we're all kids. It's 24 and under, so we'll slap box and be playing around. And the COs will know what we're doing. They know we're not fighting, but I can't imagine anybody even playing like that in Cali, just knowing that someone could get shot just over the simplest thing. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, there ain't you don't horseplay or nothing like that. And there's signs everywhere on the walls. It's written in red writing with the white background. It says no warning shots. So they don't even have to give a warning shot. I mean, they can just pull your cap just, because, they see a weapon or whatever, or they see you going for that fence or whatever, they can shoot you, and they don't have to give you a warning. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's crazy what you were talking about, the little room in the chow hall, though, because when in our chow hall, they have it's like a little room that washes all the trays. So when you go out, you put your tray through this little window, and there's guys in there, there's kitchen workers in there washing all the trays. And one time I did a move, and that's how I did it. I slipped into the scullery, it was called. And I slipped into the scullery and waited for the other building to come through where dude was at. And when he came by to dump his tray, I moved on him. And I got caught for that one because the cops line up outside of the chow hall. So right when you dump your tray, you're automatically walking outside, and the cops are lined up. They pat you down to see if you got any like food or whatever, or whatever.
If you're taking chicken back to the dorm or something like that.
So when I moved on him, he took off out the door, automatically started running towards the door. So when I moved on him, the whole incident carried out into the where the cops were at. And yeah, they shot me with the block gun that time too in the leg, and they sprayed me. And yeah, so yeah, that's a trip. You got a little room like that too in the chow hall that you can kind of hide out in, because that's how the Scullery is in California. But usually, bro, we're on lockdown and we're getting self-fed. I mean, most of the time, you know, the trays come to the door. You know, on level 4 is usually, you know, you're on lockdown majority of the time. You know, you may get off for a little while, and you know, everybody will get their little canteen and their, you know, their commissary, and then something will pop off again. You know what I mean? But yeah, how's your visits out there? That's something I wanted to ask you. We haven't really heard anything about that. Do you guys get contact visits?
Yeah, so I personally never had a visit. I wasn't really getting mail at the beginning. I didn't get phone calls until the very, very end of my bid when I hit the adult camp, which was like my last year in prison. I never got a visitation, but the visitations are in person. You get to sit down with your family. You get one hug. You can hold your kid. And I mean, just from hearing other people's experiences, you know, it wasn't that bad. There was only maybe 2 times I heard of something popping off inside a visitation where someone jumped on someone else. You know what I mean? And I don't even think they had a weapon or anything like that, because you got to get strip searched and everything before you go in. But one of the kid's family members got attacked, and, you know, it was a big thing. And the kid that did that, the COs, you know, I don't even know if that kid's alive anymore. The COs don't play, but they got snack machines and stuff like that. You people bring money, you can get some different type of snacks, different types of food, and go up on the wall and take a picture with everyone. And, you know, it's the old cameras, the picture slides out. But I never personally got a visit, and I didn't get one in county either. In county jail, you sit in the open bay dorm and you have little TVs on the wall, and that's more or less your visit. You see your people on the TV. It's no actual physical contact.
Yeah, that's how it is in California. Like in the county, we don't have the TVs. It's behind the glass, and you know, you all go in. When I was in the gang module, they would always handcuff me to the wall with one hand. When you're on the main line, you just walk out there normal. But it's behind the glass. But yeah, in prison, as long as you're on the main line, California prison, same thing. It's, you know, it's all contact visits. We also have family visits. If you're not a lifer, you know, you ain't got no funny cases or any type of like spousal abuse or anything like that, you can get family visits, and they're like 48-hour visits where you go to, like, it's basically a little hotel room, man.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, you get these conjugal visits, man, and yeah, you get your little conjugal visits. The lifers used to have them, but they took them for lifers because they said that they didn't want lifers having kids, basically.
That's why would they? Do you know the reasoning behind that? Because I mean, everyone that I met, a lot of the guys that I met, the reason that they wanted to, you know, have sex with the CO was for the sole purpose that if they didn't have kids when they died, there was no one to carry their bloodline. You know what I mean? And that's something that stuck out to me. I met this guy that was on death row for almost, I think, 3 years. He got off death row. They stuck him with the 2 life sentences. He's never going home. And he told me the only thing he wants to do is have a child, just so that when he dies, his bloodline doesn't end. And that was one of the reasons that when I got out, you know, I'm not going to say I just wanted to have a kid with anyone, but that was a reason I definitely wanted to have a child, to feel like, you know, even when I die, I still exist.
Yeah, no, I think it's messed up, man, because their whole reasoning behind it, from what I understand, and they took them before I went to prison in '98, but from what I understand was they didn't want them having children and not being able to be out there and raise them and be a father to them. That, from what I understand, that was the reasoning behind it. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of the whole situation. And And it sucks, man, because I mean those are pretty much the ones that need them the most, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel the same way, you know, and I really hope that someone in a position of power watches these videos, and as we push for reform and as we push for the Department of Corrections to fix a lot of their flaws, I hope that's something that they can fix inside of California, because, you know, I'm sure that they could set up a program where if you're eligible for family visits, you're eligible to see that child that you had on the street and raise them in a way that you normally can't through prison. You know, you can't really raise a child through pen and paper, but at least being able to see that child and have that child see you inside of a prison and teach them, hey, this is what happened because I made these decisions, and I want you to see it the way I see it. I feel that that would have such a stronger impact on that child's life, instead of just knowing that their parent is in prison. And, you know, sad to say, but usually if the parent is in prison, the child follows suit. You know what I mean? So I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I agree totally, brother. I agree totally. How old are you, Jake?
I'm 24.
24. My son's 23. He was born in 95 when I was 15. Actually, I just turned 16. And same thing, brother, because of my absence, I tried to be a part of his life, but his mom wouldn't allow that. But, you know, he's going down the same path, you know, I went down, you know, getting involved in, you know, drugs and everything else. And he's actually in the county jail right now as we speak, you know. So, you know, that's true, you know. And I think even, okay, say if, you know, they took the family visits because they don't want them to have any more children. If they have children now, I think those family visits would be so beneficial to them, like you said, teaching them the mistakes that they made and expressing to them, you know, and showing them with, you know, so they could see with their own eyes what they have to endure so they don't make those same mistakes. You know, I think that, I mean, just for that factor alone, I think they should let them have it. And you're right. I hope some people see these videos for multiple reasons. I was reading up on what was going on with the JIT camps that you were talking about. I went online and looked all that stuff up, bro. And that's madness, bro. That's insanity, dude. You know what I mean? And just the fact that it's freely happening and nothing's done about it is just crazy, bro. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that you took the time to actually look into that, because there's a lot of people that are quick to write a comment. There's a lot of people that are quick to speak on it. There's a lot of people that have done time in Florida, but it's been 20 years since they've been inside of there and can't really speak on what's happening now. And I appreciate anybody that takes the time to, you know, educate themselves on the situation and what's at hand, because it's insane how publicized it is. It's insane how many articles you can find, how many open federal cases and investigations there are, and no one's doing nothing about it. No one's saying anything. And, you know, I hope that with the content I produce, I don't get strikes on YouTube, because I only wish to educate, but I wish to educate in the most authentic way possible. You know, they got that Scared Straight show, but it's fake. If anyone's been to jail, you know it's fake. You see it's fake. If you want to scare these kids, bring them into a JIT camp and let them spend a week. And when they go home all scarred up, I guarantee they don't want nothing to do with it again. And that was one of the main reasons I didn't want. See, my family offered to visit me, and I told them no. I wouldn't send them the visitation paper because I didn't want them to have to see what I looked like, what I had to transform into, and I didn't want them to have to see how everyone else looked. I didn't want to have to bring them into this hell with me, knowing that I'm eventually going home. And I never brought them in, and I really don't regret it. I don't regret not having my people have to see that. It's insane, bro. You got kids 15 years old with crazy scars, keloid scars on their face from just getting ripped open. And, you know, you got a lot of people going home with damage that can't be repaired. In my, in the first interview I did with Death, big shout out to Death, he asked me one of the craziest things I saw happen, and I told him about one of the kids that got hit up badly with a box cutter. I actually just reached out to this kid, and, you know, we were on opposite sides of the field. Our teams didn't play well together, but I reached out with him. I reached out to him just to see where his head was at, if he was still on that, you know, jit mentality, or if he elevated from the type of time that he was trying to do. And I mean, he's doing good. His mentality has definitely matured, and I've offered for him to come on to the show. And that's going to be one of the upcoming, you know, videos that I have, is you can see the insane scars that this kid has to live with. But he also has the pictures of when he was originally cut open from the investigators. And I mean, it's gruesome, bro. It's crazy. A lot of people don't have sympathy for prisoners. You know, they feel that if we put ourselves there, it's our fault, whatever. A lot of people don't have sympathy for people with life sentences or that's doing crazy time. What I don't understand is when you're sentenced as a youth offender in Florida courts, it's only supposed to be for 6 years. But what happens is if you get sentenced to 20 as a 16-year-old, you'll get reclassified by the Department of Corrections at your reception center. You'll serve your 6 at a YO or until you turn 24, and then you'll go and finish the rest of your time in adult prisons. So you have kids in there that have crazy amounts of time. You have 14-year-olds with 35 years. And it's an absolute war zone. We get put on lockdown, but it doesn't really last. You know, we were only getting put on lockdown if like 3 to 5 people got hit up in a day, because every single dorm on the compound would be popping off. So if I'm in B dorm and, you know, you got K dorm going through it, that doesn't affect us. We can still go to rec and everything. But if 2 people get cut in B dorm, we can still go to rec. So you have people just getting hit up, and it's just non-stop war. It's insanity, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. And that's what I'm talking about. Like you're speaking on reform. You know, we really need to try to make these videos reach out and touch somebody, man, because you know, you guys are pups, man, when you go in there and you're forced to become violent in a way that's just, like you said, it's insanity, bro. But you have no choice. You have to conform to that and become that for survival. I mean, it's survival of the fittest. So I mean, you know, most people are not going to allow another man or another person to take advantage of them, and you know, and what you have to endure to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, we as a people really need to start writing the congressman and some people in Florida and you know, get that, because I personally read the cases, and I went in further and kept going deeper into Google search, and I didn't just look at the first one. I kept digging deeper, and you're absolutely right, bro. There's just, I mean, so many cases. It's sad, bro. You know, and some of the stuff I read with my own eyes is just ridiculous, bro, that our youth have to go through that, you know, just to be cool, you know.